I am somewhere between practice and research. And I see the situation of youth work on the glasses half full because we are more connected, we have more opportunities, we have wonderful people with a lot of experience and knowledge. The glass is half empty. It's because of the pandemic, which went over us. I mean, change is inevitable, but the pandemic, COVID-19, changed the direction and magnitude of how things were going. So we have to constantly learn, but also unlearn. What to learn, everybody knows what I mean. Unlearn, I would like to underline this. We have habit and experience of doing things forever. A very quick example is youth exchanges and intercultural night. We have been doing it for all these times, and it's almost automatic now. But with the pandemic, things becoming online, with these new conditions, how do we unlearn what we've been doing for 20, 30 years? And how do we replace it with something better or improved? So I think one challenge is we have to adapt, and we are very resilient. Youth work is very resilient to change. Sometimes we are the agents of change, but it's the unlearning process in such a short time. I would throw my 2 cents on it is the challenge. How to solve it? It's a $1 million question, and I think there are lists of answers, but one way is learning by doing. So we've been in these conditions for a while. Airports closed, learning mobility stopped, and everything. But we've been also experimenting and learning a lot. So I think youth work has the capacity to catch up with the speed of change and even go ahead of it, go ahead in the curve as well. So I don't have a magic solution. I think we will create the solution together by doing. Well, again, let's look at the two sides. First side is, yes, youth work was fast, quick, and resilient, but it doesn't undermine the pressure and the dire straits youth work is in. The physical restrictions and financial conditions are choking the youth sector, especially youth organizations. They can't even physically organize a get-together, fundraising activities. They still have to deal with the costs, such as rent and everything, and budgets are cut or diverted. So let's say underestimate the pressure on youth work. On the other hand, youth work also has proven itself vital for the mental well-being of young people during this pandemic. And on top of it, young people have proven that they are part of the solution, not as part of the problem. Unfortunately, in the early times of pandemic or over time, in the summer of 2020, for instance, we have seen scapegoating of young people. They were portrayed as irresponsible, careless, almost a danger to the society, and which resulted with soft curfews and lockdowns in several countries. I am from Turkey, I'm connecting from Ankara, and people under 20 are not allowed to go out most of the time. So we have seen this kind of restrictions targeted on young people as if they were a danger to the society, while young people in general, youth work in particular, has demonstrated that they are part of the solution. There were a lot of solidarity projects. There were a lot of neighborhood projects. Young people and youth organizations took initiative and helped the elder people or other young people. So this was crisis management, and this was immediate reaction to something going on. This was not planned. This was not organized. So on one hand, there is a lot of pressure on youth work and youth sector. On the other hand, youth sector has proven to be essential. And when the pandemic is over, youth work will be more necessary than ever, because young people will not come out as the same. The society will not come out as the same. So I think what is necessary is innovation is important in the sense that we try to manage the change now, because until now we have been reactive. So I think it is time to be active and plan ahead. And that's where innovation will be crucial. Quality is always a difficult difficult button to push. It is affected, but I think it's affected not only because of the restrictions, but it's also capacity was affected. Freelance youth workers have been affected. Some of them have been unemployed. The Trainers Guild made a very good declaration. So it is, the longer we are, it's becoming an issue of survival. But again, youth sector was also very good in quickly reacting and using these for making a positive out of something negative as well. What do I mean? They were immediately, for instance, including people that would not normally be included, because now they don't have to travel, they don't have to get a visa. It's in a way cheaper. So we have seen, for instance, events that normally would have a budget for 20 participants being open to 500 participants because it's just going online. But I repeat, it's not going online does not mean trying to do everything in front of a screen. Why do I say that? I have to underline the fact of non-formal and informal learning. And that is something I would point out if we are going to talk about quality. Just like university, high school classes that went online, what we are missing is the 5 minutes before the class, before the instructor or teacher comes, or the coffee you will have with your classmates after the class, where you would exchange, you would deliberate, you would discuss. So youth work, that is also the issue. We had to sacrifice informal learning when we are not in a meeting room, but outside in front of coffee, when people would chat, people speaking similar languages would gather and exchange. So I think that is one, how can I say, a casualty, informal learning, and that is very hard to replicate through online, and that's where we need to think about. I am not in a position to say it's less quality, it's better or worse. It's completely different, and we have to operate in this different. And comparison is not the way to go. We should not compare it to physical exchanges because it's different. If we start comparing, we might miss certain points. And that's, again, I repeat myself, but that's where we have to unlearn. So I think we have to think in a new format. And that's where we are forced to innovate. Now, good news from my perspective is youth research, because this is a massive issue. I have seen an increase in research activities. I am pleased to see so much quality work is already available during the pandemic. This time, I think youth researchers reacted very quickly. Institutions reacted super quickly because, for instance, Youth Partnership of the Council of Europe and European Commission has the knowledge hub of COVID-19. So all the research is being published there immediately, desk research. I have contributed with the desk research immediately. So I think we are producing evidence during the pandemic, which gives us room to adapt. We are not waiting until after to see damage control. Especially, for instance, I've seen very good youth work on very good research on mental well-being of young people, which is an alarming, a red light, warning us. And we already have it. We have data, we have evidence. So it's time for evidence-based practice and evidence-based policy, because youth research sector managed to produce evidence during the pandemic, not waiting until after the pandemic. In terms of cooperation with youth practice and youth research, this is the weakest link from my perspective. Research and policy speak to each other. Policy and practice speak to each other, but for some reason, practice and research were generally quiet with each other. It's a lot to do with perceptions. The youth researchers or researchers working on youth better way were more insulated and not really aware of what's going on the field, and the practitioners who were fighting with day-to-day issues have always considered research as something very sophisticated, something that only scientists with a big lab and a lot of money can do. But I think there is hope in that. In the sense, I am hopeful about cooperation between practice and research in youth field. And let me just share two. There is more, but two reasons why I'm hopeful. One, I see more youth researchers with background in practice, like myself. When I'm working on learning mobility, I have been in youth exchanges. I have been a volunteer in a work camp. I have organized contact making seminars. I was a trainer in long-term trainers. So when I talking about it, I have the experience, but I also have the theory and knowledge. So when I'm designing a survey, I know. Why this is important is in the past, we have excellent quality work. I'm not looking down to them. I'm not discrediting them. But most of the time, youth was under the microscope as a unit of analysis. But now what we have is ex-volunteers with PhDs, for instance, doing research, rather than PhDs looking for a subject and finding youth. So I think this mixing of researchers with practice background is increasing the dialogue and the connection. There are more people. This we have seen in Erasmus in the past. We had, for instance, policymakers, including, for instance, Mogherini, Federica Mogherini, who was an Erasmus student. So we had policymakers who did Erasmus, which respected and protected the program. Now we have professors who were an EVS volunteer, for instance. We have people who participated in exchanges and everything. So who knows what is non-formal and informal, but they are operating in a formal setting. So that's one thing that gives me hope, this interchange between practitioners and researchers. The second thing that gives me hope is the institutional structure. Now we have more institutional structures that support cooperation and dialogue between practice and research. The pool of European youth researchers is one, the youth partnership is one, the academy, European Academy on Youth Work is one, where they can come together. European Platform on Learning Mobility is another place. So if I'm a researcher in a university which has no idea about youth work practice, but want to do something about it, if I go online, wait a minute, I can go one of these events. I can download their videos and watch it. So think about it, compare it with 10 years ago or 20 years ago, a young PhD candidate who wants to do something on community impact on Solidarity Corps wouldn't know where to start. Now we have Salto European Solidarity Corps Resource Center, which they can contact and they can start immediately. So these two reasons give me a lot of hope and optimistic view on research practice dialogue in the field of youth work. I am aware of the debate we have in this triangle, research, practice, and policy. None of the actors in any part of the triangle has a perfect answer to a simple question of what is innovation. So when we talk about innovation in youth work, each actor in the triangle is giving a different answer, and we don't even agree on what is innovation. And I'm perfectly happy about it because uniformity is sometimes boring. And why do we have to do this different? Because look at youth participation, a very important subject which we have been discussing for a very long time. And there are about 36, 37 models of participation. Yeah. And we don't have to agree and choose one and all worship that. So in terms of innovation, we don't have to choose one definition and follow it very strictly. This is, I think, the creative process, which is also a little bit of a destructive process, in the sense that in order to innovate, we have to destroy what we have in our hands and see what are the components. I find youth work innovative in the sense that it is not in a bubble. It is part of the society and community we live in. I am one of those people who don't believe in youth problems. I don't believe in youth unemployment. There is an unemployment problem, and young people are the ones who suffer most out of it. Youth problems are society problems. So I don't believe in this compartmentalization, because after that comes victimization and also blaming that, oh, there's youth unemployment because young people are lazy. I don't believe in that. Are you creating enough employment opportunities for young people to benefit from? And I think innovative aspect of youth work comes from these issues. Young people, for instance, again, I will use the example I know best, learning mobility. Young people have financial issues, but also visa issues to travel, Euromed exchanges, think about it. And at a very young age, you have to deal with embassies, the visa procedures, invitation letters, and all these things that a young person normally should not be subjected to. And it's amazing how people can come up with creative ideas and problem solving. So most of the innovation of young youth work comes from lack of resources, or problem solving sometimes, because they are never given something easily. We generally have to find ways. If we can't find a way, we have to make ways. And that's why youth work has always been innovative. And I repeat what I said. And most of the time ahead of the society, ahead in the curve. Now that's also dangerous, because you can't always plug and play. A very simple thing, one Energizer ice-breaking game that works somewhere, you can't copy and paste and put it to another setting. And that's why it has to be constant. You can't innovate once and say, okay, it's solved. Innovation in youth work has to be continuous, has to be flexible, and context specific. I will not give one example, but I want to talk about an approach, which is youth participatory action research, YPAR, or however you pronounce it. Participatory action research. Well, action research has been around for a while. Participatory action research also exists, but I've been observing last a few years, this is being adapted to youth research. And I find this very important and valuable. And I have seen fantastic examples and outcomes of it. I'm sure this is the moment people will pause the video and Google what is youth participatory action research. And they will notice most of the examples they will find is not from Europe. This is one of the few cases that Europe is learning from other parts of the world in terms of youth work, because normally we are ahead. I'm very proud to say, being from Europe, we are very good in youth work and we are very innovative. But youth participatory action research is rather new in Europe comparatively, and it's something we are learning from Americans, and especially North America, United States. When I say America, I mean the whole continent, because I've seen good examples in Spanish-speaking Central and South America as well. And youth participatory action research I find very important and innovative, because it is the young people who decide on the research rather than a middle-aged male white academic in an office deciding and designing the whole research, because how you design will affect your outcomes. But if it's the young people themselves deciding on what is important and how the data should be collected. And what is important from research perspective, they also formulate the research questions. Then the outcome is, first of all, very reliable and valid. And the most important, it's policy and change oriented directly. So youth participatory action research gives us evidence that you can start using immediately in practice and policy. And that's why it excites me. And I find it very innovative to break the circle of, I repeat, middle-aged white male academic designing the question and the methods and using young people as if they are just something to analyze under the microscope. It is the young people themselves together with the practitioners and policymakers and researchers asking what is important and what to do about it. So everything we're talking and complaining about, evidence-based policymaking, evidence-based practice making, inclusion of young people, youth participation, giving a voice to young people, here you have. I mean, it's not a magic solution, but it's one of the best I have seen. Again, I encourage people. Portugal has a very good example, and it's transsectoral. It brought young people and health together, two very important issues. And they had this long project, Youth Participatory Action Research Project on health. And young people themselves discussed health issues, reproductive health, mental well-being. And they came up with policy suggestions, which the government was following. That is innovation, my friend. The contribution of European Academy on Youth Work to youth work in Europe goes beyond youth work. I think the contribution of European Academy on Youth Work is a contribution to the European society, because youth work is an important part and contribution to the society in general, just like in the times of pandemic, how youth work contributed to the society. Hence, European Academy on Youth Work is not only for young people or youth workers, it is for the society in general. So that's my approach. This is not a small niche that youth workers, people in the youth work come together and enjoy. No, this is something for the society at large, especially for policy, practice, and research triangle. So I welcome even the existence of such an institutional structure that brings these actors together, because there's a European platform on learning mobility and the European Academy on Youth Work, only two of the most important. Second, it is a place to learn, but also build. So it's not only some people give and the others take. It is a place to work together and improve. So the people who present, the people who contribute, receive feedback, and it also helps them. And it is more in the shape of a horizontal structure and in the shape, well, even the name is an academy. It is not a school where one person gives and the other people take note and go. This is a place of learning for everybody that comes together at different stages. So I think that is an important, it's a learning space, but who learns from who? Everybody learns from everybody. I was fortunate enough to present research practice linkage in the first edition, and the questions and proposals and ideas we had during that session contributed so much to me that I was an improved position. I was in an improved position after the academy than I was before. So this is the contribution. It provides a space to learn together, but to build something together. And if you think at this level, we don't have so many spaces. And on the third point, again, European Academy on Youth Work contributes by enlarging the dialogue and going out the bubble of youth work, because we know what we do is valuable. We know how much of a difference it makes, but only through places of European Academy on Youth Work we can get out and interact with people, not from the club per se, and they can learn from us, but we can also learn from them. And having been around for some time, I know that an initiative like European Academy on Youth Work was absolutely necessary, but didn't exist. And it was something that was missing. And it wasn't missing in terms of youth work alone, because as I said, youth work is a bubble. I can name you 10 initiatives that brings youth workers together, but this is one of the very few that allows people in youth work get together with people who are not directly in the youth work field, but doing something related to young people. So European Academy on Youth Work is making a very important contribution to European society, not only to European Youth Work Society.